the eagle's golden eyes fixed on her immediately, and it let out a piercing cry. It puffed its enormous chest, glaring with an intensity that made her legs tremble. But Echidime forced herself to remember Mother Oluchi's words, "Do not show fear." With slow, deliberate steps, she approached the nest. "I mean no harm," she whispered to the eagle. Its gaze bore into her, but she kept walking, one hand extended toward the nest. Finally, she plucked a single feather and backed away as calmly as she could. Long ago, in the beautiful kingdom of Tunda Ednith, there was a grand palace built on a hill, surrounded by mountains, greens, and tall trees. This palace was home to a king, a queen, and their 3 daughters. The eldest daughter was called Adeze, and she was known throughout the land as the fairest maiden. The middle daughter, Onye, was not as beautiful as Adeze, but was still lovely to see. Then there was the youngest, Princess Echidime, whom no one spoke about. Echidime was different. Her skin had strange marks, her eyes were too big for her tiny face, and her teeth were sharp like a crocodile's, even though she never bit anyone. People whispered that a curse had fallen on her when she was born. Even her own mother, the queen, often sighed deeply whenever she looked upon Echidime. "Why, oh heavens," the queen would ask, shaking her head. "Why did you give me such an ugly child?" Life was lonely for Echidime. Her sisters played and danced in the garden with friends, their laughter ringing out like sweet music. But Echidime was always left behind, watching from her bedroom window. She wanted to join them, to dance and laugh too, but every time she tried, the servants or guards would gently guide her back inside. "Go back, princess," they would say, avoiding looking at her face. "Your sisters are busy." Sometimes, Echidime imagined what it would feel like to be loved and wanted like her sisters. But as the years passed, she stopped hoping. Instead, she found comfort in sitting beneath a big baobab tree in the royal courtyard. There, she would listen to the birds sing and try to hum along. For some reason, whenever Echidime sang, the world felt less heavy. Her voice was soft and sweet, a sound that made even the most stubborn winds pause to listen. One sunny morning, Echidime saw her sisters, Adeze and Onye, running hand in hand towards the forest. They carried baskets of fruits and flowers, giggling as the sunshine danced on their glowing faces. "Where are they going?" Echidime whispered to herself. Her heart ached with curiosity. The queen had always told Echidime to stay away from the forest. "It is dangerous," she said. "There are wild animals and spirits there." But Echidime's curiosity was stronger than her fear that day. She quietly followed her sisters, walking far behind so they wouldn't see her. She passed tall trees and colorful butterflies until she came to a clear stream bubbling like laughter. Adeze and Onye leaned close to the water and admired their reflections. "Oh, look how beautiful I am," Adeze said, turning her face from side to side. "If only the sun could marry someone," Onye replied with a proud smile, "it would surely choose one of us." Hearing this, Echidime squatted down beside the stream. Slowly, she leaned in to see her reflection just like her sisters had done. The cool water sparkled, but what she saw made her heart stop. The girl in the stream was not beautiful. She was strange, with large, uneven features that were hard to look at for long. Her hair, rough and unkempt, hung like twisted weeds. Her teeth gleamed like jagged ivory. "Is that me?" Echidime gasped, pulling back. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she realized why everyone avoided her. She had heard people call her ugly before, but now, seeing it herself made her chest feel tight, as though all the air in the world had been taken away. From that day on, Echidime stopped trying to join her sisters. She didn't even watch them from her window anymore. Instead, she began wandering deeper into the forest, where no one could see her. The trees, the birds, and the wind became her only friends. She would sit under the tallest trees and softly hum to herself, letting her voice mix with the whispers of the forest. She thought, if the people won't love me, maybe the forest will. One afternoon, as Echidime sang quietly under her favorite iroko tree, she heard something strange. It was a faint sound, like someone calling for help. She sat still for a moment, unsure if she had imagined it. Then the sound came again, this time louder. Help! Someone, please help me! Echidime's heart thumped loudly in her chest. Her first thought was to run away. What if it was a trap? What if it was a wild animal pretending to be human? Stories of forest spirits and monsters filled her mind. No, Echidime said to herself, shaking her head. That voice sounds real. Someone is in trouble. She stood up and followed the cries, moving carefully through the bushes. After walking a little further, she found the source of the screams. A young man was lying on the ground, his leg caught in a heavy trap made of iron. He wore fine clothes that glowed in the sunlight, and golden beads adorned his wrists and neck. He was a prince, no doubt about it. His face lit up when he saw her. Please, help me, he begged. I stepped on this trap and cannot get free. Echidime hesitated. The iron teeth of the trap looked sharp, and the prince's face was twisted in pain. Why should I help him, she thought. He will probably scream if he looks at my face. But then she remembered how painful it felt to be ignored. With a deep breath, she stepped closer. Stay still, she said, her voice soft but firm. I will help you. Echidime knelt beside the trap and used all her strength to push the teeth open. It wasn't easy. Sweat dripped down her forehead as she struggled, but she didn't give up. Finally, the trap gave way, and the prince pulled his leg out. Thank you, he said, giving her a warm smile. You saved my life. The prince's leg was bleeding, and Echidime tore a piece of cloth from her dress to wrap around the wound. As she worked, the prince's eyes never left her. What were you doing here all alone? He asked. I like the forest, Echidime replied. She was careful not to tell him who she was. Your voice, the prince said after a while. It's beautiful. I heard it before I called for help. Were you the one singing? Yes, Echidime said, blushing. No one had ever complimented her before. You should sing for others, the prince said with a gentle smile. A voice like that could make even the toughest warrior cry. Echidime looked down, unsure how to respond. She wanted to tell him how lonely she was, how no one ever saw her as more than the ugly daughter of the queen. But before she could say anything, distant voices echoed through the forest. Prince Obi. Where are you? The prince sat up, his eyes wide with recognition. That's my father's guards. They must be searching for me. Echidime's heart raced. If the guards saw her, they would recognize her as the ugly princess of Tunda Ednith. What if they mocked her? What if they told her mother she had come to the forest? The prince noticed her panic. Wait, he said as she stood up. At least tell me your name before you go. But Echidime couldn't stay. Without another word, she turned and ran deeper into the forest, her bare feet moving swiftly over the earth. The prince called out after her, but she didn't stop. That day, Echidime promised herself she wouldn't come back to the stream. But in her heart, she couldn't forget the prince who had seen her, and heard her, as more than just an ugly face. The prince stood frozen, stunned as Echidime darted into the shadows of the dense forest. Her name lingered unspoken on his lips, and a strange pang of sorrow pressed against his chest. Prince Obi was no stranger to the beauty of the world, painted skies, verdant fields, courtly ladies adorned like living artworks, but what he had seen in her transcended appearances. Her trembling courage, her kindness, and most of all, her voice, it was as though it resonated with something deep within him, weaving a melody into his soul. As the prince staggered back toward his entourage, which included his trusted right-hand man Captain Dogo, he couldn't help but glance back at the murky woods. Captain, dispatch scouts to search the forest later today, he commanded. For what, my lord? Captain Dogo raised an eyebrow. Obi frowned thoughtfully. For a songbird, he murmured, his words cryptic but certain. Days turned into weeks, but Prince Obi remained haunted by both the mystery and the music of the strange, reclusive maid who had rescued him. Meanwhile, Echidime had returned to her quiet existence in the forest, unsure whether she'd made the right choice in fleeing. She played the moment over and over in her head. The warmth of Prince Obi's gaze had felt like a balm to her lonely soul, but fear had overwhelmed her. Could someone as radiant as he ever truly accept someone like her? Her retreat was short-lived, however. While tending to the birds that gathered at her favorite glade, she overheard hushed voices echoing through the trees. Two men, oblivious to her hidden presence, squatted near a fallen log, discussing the royal family. Did you hear? Prince Obi is hosting a grand fete, calls it an adventurer's ball, one man said, his voice laced with envy. He's invited nobles and commoners alike. Some say he's searching for the mysterious maiden who saved his life. Echidimea's heart skipped a beat. The prince had been searching for her? She felt both excitement and dread. Though part of her longed to be in his presence again, doubt and fear clawed at her resolve. What would he think if he truly saw her? The real her? Back at the palace, preparations for the adventurers' ball were in full swing. As Prince Obi walked through the bustling halls, instructing servants and overseeing arrangements, his elder sister, Princess Echidime, fell into step beside him. Brother, you realize this whole ball idea is nonsense, don't you? She said, folding her arms. Perhaps, Obi admitted, pausing to admire a towering floral centerpiece. But nonsense it may be, Echidime, I cannot get her voice out of my mind. That melody, it was unlike anything I've ever heard. Echidime studied her brother, a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Well, I suppose there's no harm in indulging your romantic inclinations. But you're holding out hope for a phantom. Are you sure she even exists? She exists, Obi said firmly. And I will find her. But even as Obi clung to hope, Echidime wrestled with uncertainty. She couldn't attend a ball, her face alone would send the crowd into whispers and stifled laughter. That night, she stared at her reflection in a small pool outside her forest hideaway, rage and anguish twisting within her. Why was I made this way? She whispered to no one, tears sliding down her cheeks. If kindness can bloom in my heart, why can't my face reflect it? As she lamented, the night seemed to grow colder. A chilling wind swirled through the trees, tugging at her hair and carrying a soft, almost imperceptible whisper, beauty must be earned, not wished for. Alarmed, Echidime looked around but saw nothing. The phrase repeated, as though carried on the wind, and a faint light glimmered in the distance. Gathering her courage, she followed the light. The faint glow led Echidime deep into the forest, further than she had ever dared venture. She arrived at a clearing bathed in silver moonlight, where an ancient, gnarled tree stood at its center. Beneath its roots sat an old woman draped in robes of green and gold, her eyes sharp yet kind. Who are you? Echidime asked hesitantly. I am called Mother Oluchi, the woman replied, her voice low and melodic. You seek beauty, do you not? Echidimea's breath hitched. Yes, I do, she admitted, her voice cracking with emotion. But it feels impossible. I'm ugly, and I always have been. Beauty is neither gift nor curse. It is a reflection of the soul, Mother Oluchi said, fixing her with an intense gaze. Yours has potential. But potential must be realized. Echidime stepped closer. What does that mean? Can you help me? The old woman smiled faintly and gestured to the roots of the tree. A journey lies ahead, Princess Echidime. To find true beauty, you must complete 3 tasks. Prove your courage, your compassion, and your wisdom. Only then will your soul blossom like the rose, and your outward form will follow. Echidimea's heart raced. Tasks? A journey? She had never thought herself capable of great deeds. But as she stared into the ancient woman's knowing eyes, something within her stirred, something bold, fierce, and ready. "I'll do it," she said finally. "I'll do whatever it takes." Mother Oluchi gave Echidime cryptic instructions to begin her first trial, venturing into the caves of Mount Ujiji to retrieve a single feather from the nest of a giant eagle. "The bird will pose no real threat unless you show fear," the old woman warned. "But if your heart falters, you risk a swift demise." The journey was grueling. Echidime climbed steep inclines and navigated treacherous paths, her determination fueled by the memory of Prince Obi's smile. Upon reaching the caves, the sound of sharp talons scraping stone sent chills down her spine. Taking a deep breath, she entered. The eagle's golden eyes fixed on her immediately, and it let out a piercing cry. It puffed its enormous chest, glaring with an intensity that made her legs tremble. But Echidime forced herself to remember Mother Oluchi's words, "Do not show fear." With slow, deliberate steps, she approached the nest. "I mean no harm," she whispered to the eagle. Its gaze bore into her, but she kept walking, one hand extended toward the nest. Finally, she plucked a single feather and backed away as calmly as she could. The eagle watched her without moving. When she exited the cave, her knees buckled, and she collapsed, shaking with the adrenaline of suppressed terror. But she had succeeded. For her second task, Echidime was told to heal a wounded creature without seeking anything in return. Mother Oluchi gave no more details, forcing Echidime to rely on her instincts.
Hey, African Cocktail fam! Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, so you never miss a new story. Stick around till the end, we've got a surprise prize for one lucky winner. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. Keep watching, and let's get this conversation steaming.
Days later, while foraging near the forest's edge, she stumbled upon an injured wolf pup whimpering in pain. Its leg was caught in a rusted trap. Echidime's heart ached at the sight. Though terrified of the small creature's sharp teeth, she approached slowly, humming softly to calm it. Using skills she had learned tending to animals in the forest, she freed its leg and bandaged the wound with strips torn from her dress. The pup licked her hand weakly, and she smiled, tears brimming in her eyes. She spent 3 days nursing the pup back to health. On the third day, she awoke to find not the wolf she had healed, but a golden fox with intelligent, human-like eyes. A voice filled her mind. Compassion fosters transformation. When Echidime completed the final trial, she returned to the ancient tree, where Mother Oluchi awaited her. "You have walked the path and earned your transformation," the old woman said. "But remember, your true beauty lies within. It mirrors the love and kindness you give to the world." A warm, golden light enveloped Echidime. She felt her body changing, as though her very essence was being reshaped. When the light faded, she gasped, staring into the reflection of the pool. Her face was now radiant, her features soft and harmonious. She was no longer ugly, but breathtakingly beautiful. On the day of Prince Obi's ball, Echidime arrived dressed in a gown of starlight, her newfound confidence guiding every step. When Obi saw her, his heart skipped a beat, not because of her beauty, but because of her unmistakable voice as she sang to herself, unaware he was watching. "It's you," he whispered. Echidime turned, smiling nervously. "I was afraid you wouldn't recognize me." Obi smiled warmly, taking her hand. "How could I forget the one who saved my life? The one who sings with the voice of the heavens?" As they danced, the court buzzed with whispers about the mysterious princess who had captured the prince's heart. But Echidime didn't care about their stares anymore. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not just as beautiful, but as someone worthy of love. On their wedding day, the kingdom celebrated not just their union, but the tale of a princess who became beautiful not by magic alone, but by the strength and goodness of her heart.
Thank you for watching to the very end. Congratulations, you've unlocked your chance to win our prize. To enter, simply leave a comment below. 1. Start with the name of your favorite character from this story. 2. Tell us where you're watching from. 3. And share at least one lesson you've learned from this story. The comment with the most likes and replies by 4 p.m. GMT tomorrow will be our winner. Get commenting and good luck! I'll see you again on our next story. Until then, stay bookie.